Welcome to the return of the UCF Podcast. My name is Francis. I'm here with my co-host Clark. Where were we? You'll never know, but we're back now, and we're here to talk both about last weekend's fight night, Moreno versus Albazi, and we're going to do a prediction for the main event of next weekend's fight night, Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. Tell me what happened last weekend, Clark.
I don't know why you can't tell them. Why you don't think you don't know? Look, Brandon Moreno and Amir Albazi went at it for 5 rounds. To Albazi's credit, he was in it the whole time. He didn't die or anything, but Moreno controlled the whole fight. You couldn't even call this one close. Not even the stupidest, blindest judge could have messed this one up. Very clear Moreno win. Guy was looking very strong. Former champ, he's got a good reason to look strong. I was hoping for more out of Albazi. He really needed to just get a takedown. At one point in time, he gets a takedown, and Moreno pretty much just slips out of it and stands right back up again. It was kind of a poor showing by Albazi, but I will give him credit. He goes 5 rounds, he goes the distance, and loses pretty much every single round pretty definitively. But, that might be more to Moreno's pillow fist than anything else. But Moreno looked really good, really strong, good control of the ring. It was a pretty good main event.
Yeah, I'd say so. I do want to play defense for Amir Albazi because on the night of, and like most people, I think, I believe that Moreno was looking amazing. But then, you sober up Sunday morning and you start reading some stuff on Twitter. Amir Albazi had spinal, he had spine surgery last year, and he now has several fused vertebrae.
Wow, that sucks.
So when he shot for that takedown and Moreno started to butt scoot away, because what you're doing is you both just hit the mat. He doesn't have full control of you. So you want to scoot back to the fence so you can use it to get back up. And presumably the guy going for the takedown will follow you. Albazi couldn't follow Moreno when he did the butt scoot. And again, on the night, I thought, wow, he's looking so fast. He's so sharp. And then, actually, wait. This is why Albazi was out for that long. He had spine surgery, which is a really bad sign going forward for Albazi because, he didn't get knocked out by Brendan Moreno, but he got his face busted up real bad. Moreno's not the biggest hitter in this division, obviously. But yeah, you're looking at 26% striking accuracy out of Albazi out of 5 rounds, landed 63 strikes of 235 thrown. It's tough. It's very tough. But Moreno got that statement performance that he wanted. He now has sort of his reasoning to argue for a title shot after the next title fight that's been booked. Hopefully Pantoja loses, so Moreno has a better argument for that title shot, because he's already lost to Pantoja twice, and it's very unlikely they book that fight a third time. But yeah, the overall, to watch at the end of the night, it was a nice little palate cleanser after the co-main event, which, let me lead you into that one, and then I'll let Clark get even angrier. This one sucked. Rose Namajunas should not have gotten rid of her main head coach, Trevor Whitman, who she had been with throughout all of her title fights. Pat Barry is not a good enough head coach. He hasn't coached anyone else to a world title. He's coached her away from world titles. But she might just not have it anymore either. She looked like a world beater in all of her title fights, down at 115 pounds, up at 125. She just doesn't have it. That Carla Esparza title fight, that was the worst of all time. It's all been sliding slowly downhill from there. Not that crazy one-sided of a fight, but Aaron just won the last 3 very, very handily, and Rose did nothing to stop it.
Fuck you, Rose. Oh man, I was on 3 hours of sleep when I watched this fight, and I was doing pretty good. I was on a cocktail of legal awakening items, and this was the one that I just totally fucking zoned out in the first couple rounds, and I really didn't come back into being a person again until round 3 when Blanchfield started to win. It was like it reactivated me. Rose ruined my life with that worst championship fight of all time, and as a result, I could just never cheer for her ever again. And honestly, I was pretty happy to see her kind of just get trounced here at the end of these last 3 rounds. Blanchfield, whatever, she's probably not even that good, but she's better than Rose, and that's what matters to me as an individual who does not like Rose. I think Rose is probably just on the downturn now. She got that one win. She came back, got that win, and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to see her fight more. Hopefully that this is gonna kind of put a cork in that, and we will see less and less of her until I see her no more.
Yeah, I'm probably just not going to tune in to any more Rose fights until I hear things have changed. It's heartbreaking because everyone in this community used to love Thug Rose, and she's not Thug Rose anymore.
The passage of time, man. You gotta watch out for it.
She's just Rose. Before that, this fight was almost as bad as the Rose fight. Maybe actually as bad. It was just, merciful in that it was only 3 rounds. And a fight between Bigfoot and the Gorilla should not look like that fight looked. Brenson Ribeiro is one of these guys who has just like a crazy physique, seems to have hella punching power, cannot find the target. He's, 37% accuracy on his significant strikes. And, if you're landing 49 strikes in 3 rounds and you're just not doing anything, now he actually won the fight. It was super close. I thought he was winning watching it live. The striking stats, higher accuracy and landed strikes for Machado. But really, I don't care either way. This fight was very boring. Not a lot happened. At the end of round 3, they tried a little bit, but for a guy coming down from heavyweight, Machado really did not seem ready to deal with punches.
Yeah, I don't know. This one, I kind of expected more out of it. And by more, I mean like anything at all. It really was like a pretty plodding, kind of just shitty fight the whole time. But I was kind of shocked that Machado lost in the end. I really thought that he had won at least 2 rounds. And I guess at least one judge agreed with me, but I don't know. It's weird.
I warned you too. If you see Sal D'Amato, that's a shitty judge, and there he is, giving a 29-28 to Ribeiro. Shout out to Sal D'Amato, who has had just historically terrible scorecards. Moving down, this fight wasn't so bad. Jasmine Jasudavicius versus Ariane Da Silva. We got a performance of the night bonus, and you know what? She deserved it because she got the finish. There really were almost no finishes on this card, but she was a Canadian fighter winning on the Canada card. Oh, Canada, let's go. She lost round 1, but came back pretty handily in round 2. And in round 3, she closed the show. You love to see it. Honestly, just a better performance than most people had on this card. And Jasmine looks good when she fights. When I've seen her fight, she's looked good. She had a good slam takedown as well. Very rare in the women's divisions. I'm going to keep my eye on her.
Yeah, it's really weird that Cortez actually beat Jasmine like relatively recently, like I think like a year ago. But beyond that, she really hasn't disappointed me in recent memory. She's pretty solid. I do actually like to watch her fight as far as WMMA goes, and yeah, it's a good submission. It's good shit.
Hell yeah. Before that, the only knockout of the night, Marc-Andre Barriault is my justification to try amateur MMA, because Barriault was the TKO champion. I believe that's an organization in Canada here. Made it into the UFC. The guy that owns like 8 knockouts or something like that. And I'm pretty sure, I'm going to double check this real quick, actually. Yeah. So in his last 6 fights, he has been finished 3 times and won twice. One of those was a TKO. So this guy, he's getting a KO or getting KO'd. Okay, great, but you keep getting KO'd, especially his last 2 fights, the one against Joe Pyfer, was just pathetic. We railed against him when that happened. But Dustin Soltzfus is one of the most plodding and slow guys in the whole division. And really all that happened was Barriault got to the feet. He'd been taken down. He got to the feet and decided he was going to swing and not defend himself. And doesn't even hit Dustin, who's right in front of him, and instead just gets immediately dropped and knocked out. Only knockout of the card. Honestly, at this point, dude, cut Barriault. Who wants him here? I don't want him representing Canada
I think
anymore.
He's just there because he's Canadian. Like, how many other Canadian fighters are there to put on anything?
Well, I was really, you know what? In hindsight, I'm confused as to why Hakeem Dawodu wasn't on this card because I'm pretty sure he's from Alberta and he's like actually decent Canadian fighter. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess, right? Got to put some Canadian
Gotta put
fighters on the
some guy in
card.
there, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, Barrio just kind of blows ass and seems to have done that for a while now. It was kind of a funny knockout when he finally stood up, and then the crowd kind of went like, "Woo!" And then he just got fucking immediately tagged and was like, "Oh, yeah, not much more to say."
Nice win for Dustin, though. Not ever going to be near that title, but the guy is working hard at least. Before that, we had Mike Malone versus Trevin Giles. Really a disappointing fight overall. If you look at these striking numbers, even less being thrown and landed than in that Ribeiro Machado fight. Proper Mike Malott ends up getting the win. He did win the fight over 3 rounds. It was incredibly slow and boring. Post-fight interview, he apologized, said, I really had to secure that victory tonight. We'll be looking for the finish next time. Trevin Giles had almost literally nothing except for his jab, which looked okay, but dude, you need to do more.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I get it from Malo a little bit. He got knocked out by Magny, didn't he? Last or something like that earlier this year.
Well, yeah, he kind of he was winning the first 2 rounds and then he just gassed out in the third and got finished.
Yeah, and I can totally understand how that's going to affect your psyche as a fighter. Like you're just not going to want to have that happen ever again. You're going to play more defensively. If you've won 2 rounds, you might just decide to play it safe and win the third one with a little more of a defensive type play to keep yourself in there. Because that sucks ass, right? Like getting finished in the third round after winning the first 2 is the nightmare for the person winning. But beyond that, Malo hasn't actually lost in the UFC, although he also hasn't really fought that frequently either. So I don't know. Maybe we can trust him, put a little faith in him. Maybe next time he'll get that finish.
Compared to a lot of the other contenders at 170 right now, like Shavkat or Jack Della Maddalena, or even Leon Edwards now that he's back outside of the title picture, I just don't see Mike Malone doing very well against the top of this division. I hope he proves me wrong because we need more good Canadian fighters, but that would be my prediction. Getting into Amin Zahabi versus Pedro Munoz. Zahabi looked good. He is not a very fast or explosive fighter. It's often caused him issues. This is the brother of Firas Zahabi, who was the head coach of GSP, for those who care. But in this fight, man, he looked good. He was fighting a very old Pedro Munoz, who's also 5'4", which is just too short for basically anything but flyweight. But, nonetheless, outstruck him in every round. Every time Munoz decided he was going for a kick, he got punished. Clark pointed that out during the fight.
Good job, Clark.
Yeah, just good, dominant performance from Amin Zahabi. I would have liked to see him push maybe a little bit more for a finish, but again, a lot of guys are playing it safe right now and just trying to secure those wins until they really get their breakout performance chance, I guess.
Yeah, no, and that was the thing I liked with Zahabi a lot was those reads on the kicks. Every time he went in it, maybe it was just because Pedro was kind of slow, but it was just very easy to punish those kicks, and then Pedro just kept throwing them for some reason, which is likely a mistake. That's one of those things you kind of wish the coaches would maybe correct. Like if I'm sitting there watching it, maybe slightly liquored up, and I'm like, wow, he's punishing every kick. Don't you think the coach would maybe say something? But I guess I don't speak Portuguese, so maybe they did say it, and I didn't hear it.
Yeah, hard to know. But going down, we had... Oh, okay, so this was the good fight. This was the good one.
We've reached the good fight.
So the last time that Charles Jourdain and Barrio fought, they were both on the same card last time as well. And Charles Jourdain got KO'd by John Silva. At the time, I was pretty mad about his performance. But this really is contrasting Barrio with Jourdain because they are supposed to... They train at the same gym. They have a similar sort of come forward style. I'm going to, throw more punches than you do. I'll take a shot to land 3. Jourdain is the smarter fighter just 100 times over. So he takes that KO loss to Jean Silva, really doesn't look good, kind of figures that he's just undersized for 145. So this was his debut at 135 pounds. So he's made an adjustment right out of the gates. And then, he's not... in the same way that like Barrio just drops his hands and starts swinging and he's not very fast or accurate, Jourdain sometimes gets into combinations where he sticks around a little bit too long. But in this fight, he wasn't. He was cutting angles away to make sure that Henry wasn't able to extend combinations or get the last strike in, cut an angle at the end of every one of his combinations to get away. It was round number 2. Henry gets a takedown, starts working on some submissions himself, but Jourdain starts to try to get, I believe, what was the choke? Yeah, it was a standing guillotine. He tries to get the guillotine on the mat from guard a couple of times, gets a scramble, and as Henry tries to get back on Jourdain's hips, as Jourdain's getting up, he catches that front headlock. He adjusts it standing, and then he sits back down into that guillotine super tight. Henry was tapping right away. Round 1, flying knees, elbows, lots of combinations. All is forgiven. Charles Jourdain is once again one of my boys. One of the actual smart fighters out there. You love to see it. Hoping to see more from this guy too.
Yeah, man, he was looking pretty good out there. It was a good, the standing guillotine, the most powerful grappling move in all MMA. So good to see that, pulling it off once again. But he did. He looked good out there. Victor Henry's honestly not that good anyway, so this kind of felt like a little bit of a feed for the Leaf crowd, but I don't even mind it. Jourdain looked good. He dealt with it quite well, so.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Henry is getting a little bit older. I think he was almost 10 years older than Jourdain, but he is a coach himself and a crafty guy with a lot of tricks. So it was a good matchup too, just stylistically. Before that, Ucf Zalal versus Jack Shore. This was another good one. And before this fight started, I called exactly that Zalal would be submitting Jack Shore, and that's how the fight was going to end. That's how the fight went. The Moroccan Devil was cut from the UFC really not all that long ago, and I think this was either his second or third fight back in the organization. He's really one of these guys who's in an awkward space because at the bottom of the division, he really is a killer. And if you kick him out of the UFC and he goes to the regional scene, he's just a step above all those guys. But you bring him back into the UFC and he starts to get tested by higher level competition. Every single time he couldn't meet the challenge. I like him as a fighter, though. He's improving, so you hope that maybe we'll see him improve a little bit more. But this was just a classic performance from him, right? On the feet, Jack Shore was very fast. He was catching Zalal, but he really was just shooting for takedowns. He was using his strikes to try to get to takedowns, and eventually Zalal capitalized on that and was able to get an arm triangle from half guard. Sneaky submission. Let's go. But he's a good submission ace, a good fighter in general, and I'm interested to see how much further he can go. Jack Shore, just a limited fighter, man. He just doesn't have enough tools. Jack Snore. He's not like a boring fighter. He just doesn't do enough. He's kind of predictable, and if you know what he's going to do, you can counter it.
Yeah, I mean the thing is with Zalal, he's 28. He's got time. He could hit that stride still. He's still done pretty good professionally, despite getting cut. I think there's hope. I believe in him.
There's always hope.
This is the belief edition of the UCF podcast.
And now, because you missed this part, you're going to have to believe me when I say it. Alexander Romanov versus Rodrigo Nascimento.
Unfortunately, I didn't miss all of it. I only missed the one good part.
Yeah, so a lot of this fight, like round 1 sucked. Round 2 started like it was going to suck again. They did eventually just start having a slugfest that I thought Nascimento would probably get the better of it on the feet, but once that round 1 of tiring him out and forcing him to fight the takedown and just kneeing him in the ass like 20 times, he really slowed down. And so then at the start of round 2, and I have to say this, Clark missed this, Romanov shoots for a takedown immediately, but he just like bull rushes Nascimento, more of a tackle than a takedown. They collide with the cage, bounce off, and it's like they bounce off so much that Romanov falls over backwards and somersaults backwards. Note to editor Francis, put the clip in. That was the most interesting thing that happened in this fight. After that, they ended up taking like one-shot pot shots at each other for the next 2 rounds. Not a lot happening besides that. Romanov gets a pretty clear win. Kind of a boring, sloppy fight. Romanov is kind of just a shitty heavyweight. So is Nascimento. What are you going to do?
just life.
Yeah. Going down, Sergey Sidney versus Garrett Armfield. I was pretty sure that Armfield had won this fight.
Yeah, you're wrong.
He outlanded City. He had, a higher accuracy. He got takedowns. He had like 5 minutes of control time, just about. But judges saw it the other way. And at least they didn't give him all 3 rounds. So
yeah, that's why you bribed the
and
judges.
it was a split decision.
I could really see it going either way, to be honest with you. I feel like 3 is clearly City's, just based on damage alone. Even though Armfield has more control time, he didn't really do a lot with it, and I think that's probably where this split is coming from. It's really depending on how much the judge is giving the control time that Armfield gets in round 3.
So the only reason that I would disagree with you on the round 3 for City is because Garrett Armfield got 3 of his 3 takedowns in round number 3, had 6 seconds shy of 4 minutes of control time. Landing 9 strikes instead of 4, I don't think that shifts the round if the opponent is
2 sub attempts in a reversal, right? Like
versus a sub attempt for Armfield.
Right,
I get that it's contentious.
But I guess my point is
like
if you got 3 takedowns and you do nothing with it, and then you look at the stats and it's like, oh, actually you got the takedowns, but your opponent has more sub attempts than you. I don't know. That's what I could see a judge being like, well, he's got more strikes, he's got sub attempts. The other guy, he's got control, but he's not really doing a lot with it. If he just thrown some fucking Robinov like ass knee strikes, maybe Armfield could have taken it, but he wasn't doing that.
Well, you know what? It might be easier to hold down Nascimento than it is City,
yeah,
I would
maybe.
Guess.
But yeah, I mean, whatever. We could have been the judges judging it. The third guy would have decided it. Who knows?
I suppose. But all right, fight either way. Garrett Armfield is pretty good, really solid power puncher. City is more of the mixing it in, kind of like he wants to be a Carlos Condit. He has the kicks, the knees, the punches, the elbows. Kind of has that tall, lanky build, but without the crazy long arms. Interesting to see what'll happen with these guys going forward. Bantamweight is a crazy deep division. But yeah, not too bad of a fight. Before that, Cody Gibson versus Chad Annalhager. This fight,
virgin Annalhager.
Yeah, pretty much. So this fight sucked, and also Chad sucks. Now, when we were watching this fight, what I kept saying is because Chad keeps leaning to his right when they're in an open stance. That means both of you have, I guess it would be opposite. So, if it's one person is southpaw, the other is conventional, you're in an open stance. This is great for kicks because if you're in a closed stance, your opponent's arm and shoulder and back get in the way of a kick. But if you're in an open stance, their whole front of their body and their face are open for kicking. So all Cody Gibson had to do, because he was landing the jab and then he kept shooting for takedowns and not getting submissions and just grappled the whole fight. Completely reasonable win. But all you had to do to knock Chad out was fake the jab, which he's leaning to the right for you, so then you can feed him your left high kick. It's that easy. Wish he would have done it instead of grappling for 3 rounds and not getting a submission against a guy who could not defend submissions very well. But oh god, and then you're getting like a 10-8 round against Chad as well, which completely deserved. He was doing nothing.
He's not great. I don't know. And like in round 3, he's like throwing so many strikes and so few of them are really even significant. It's like, God, man, go to bed.
Well, I mean, a lot of that was just he was on his bat, like pitter-pattering Gibson on top, because I think the crowd really was cheering for him being the Canadian fighter and from Alberta where it was. But no, just not working out. The last guy that Chad beat was Greganopoulos or whatever. He just got cut like a week ago, so expect to see Chad when you get those Twitter updates for fighter cut. Expect Chad and Hilliger. And before that, first fight of the evening, Jamie Lynn Horth versus Ivana Petrovic. I actually thought Ivana won this fight.
I did too, actually. This one really did feel like a feed to the fucking Leaf crowd, because you got this fucking Leaf here. I don't really know how you look at this and say that Horth won, but I don't know, I guess she did. What are you gonna do?
She got outlanded. She got out grappled. 7 minutes of control time going to her opponent, which is literally half the fight. I don't know. I don't know how that makes any sense, but the
Life's a
judges
mystery
thought that
sometimes.
way. And it was the earliest prelim on the Edmonton card, so I don't think anyone really cares either way.
No one even knows it happened.
That's right. And now, bonus, whoa!
What the frig?
We're going to do a preview of the main event of next weekend's card.
Oh my god.
Neil Magny versus
my
Carlos
God.
Prates. Now, the odds as of
I was gonna say,
what is it? I guess God, election night, November 5th. The odds are plus 550 for Magny and minus 800 for Prates.
So who's gonna win?
I would bet on Carlos Prates. That's not gambling advice, by the way, but I would.
It might as well be.
Okay, Neil Magny has been a gatekeeper at 170 since people still thought he was a prospect. He takes really tough losses to guys who are really on the way up, and he shows who has a hole in their game. He's not very fast, but he has crazy reach. He's at 170 pounds with like an 80-inch reach. That's like a heavyweight's reach. Okay, he's a really good grappler. His top game is really suffocating. If he gets his opponent on the ground and he's on top, there's not a lot of ways guys are able to get out from underneath him. But like a lot of fighters, he really just seems to run into kind of like a horsepower issue. He'll run into guys who are just faster than him, hit harder than him, just have more crack on their shots. He can't hurt, and he starts to fold. Carlos Prates is that guy who's killing people with like body knees and crazy overhand rights, and he's setting up his shots and crowding guys against the cage. He's one of these fighting nerd guys, just like Jean Silva, who are all killers. Betting against this guy is really like, you really must know something if you think Prates is going to lose this fight. Neil Magny also is getting really old for 170, and just really old for the UFC in general. Prates by KO. Yeah, that's my prediction.
I think this is quite simple. Prates by KO is the only reasonable option. I think the only reason he's going up against Magny is because he's numbered and Prates isn't yet. And this is going to give Prates a little number next to his name. Prates is up and coming. He's got 3 wins, 3 KOs. Again, the nerd fighter guys, they're good. I don't even know what the hell they're doing, but they're good. There's no denying it at this point. I would be pretty shocked if Magny doesn't get knocked out, to be quite honest.
I just figured it out. What the secret is for the fighting nerds.
They're fucking losers. They play fucking like Yu-Gi-Oh?
No. All the other guys are going to the gym to train. These guys go to the library.
Oh my God.
We'll see you next time. We're actually back. We hope to see you next time. Look forward to a few. Yeah, you better believe it.
Was like a
Look
joke.
forward. No, I'm actually going to publish this.
Oh, fuck.
Look forward to a couple one-off videos, including divisional breakdowns and is the UFC really getting worse? What can we do to make it better? Anyways, we'll see you next time, and have a good one, guys.
Goodbye. Forever.